Welcome to the Fame Journey, where we bring you the most pressing stories and unfolding events from around the world. Today, we turn our focus to the chaos sweeping across the UK as riots erupt in towns and cities over the past week. What began as isolated incidents has now escalated into a nationwide crisis, with migrant hotels being raided, shops looted, and police officers under siege from an enraged populace. In this episode, we'll take a deep dive into the origins of this unrest, the devastating impact on communities, and the broader implications for the nation. The United Kingdom is in the grip of violent unrest, as anti-migrant protests explode into full-blown riots in multiple towns and cities. The turmoil, marked by scenes of destruction and confrontation, has exposed deep divisions within the country, fueled by anger, fear, and misinformation. Today, we witness one of the most harrowing episodes of this ongoing crisis, a mob storming the Holiday Inn Express in Rotherham, a hotel currently housing asylum seekers. The crowd, driven by far-right rhetoric, broke through police barriers and set a large fire outside the property, leaving the migrants inside in a state of terror. Police officers, who had formed a defensive line in front of the hotel, were pelted with objects and debris, with at least one officer in riot gear carried away by colleagues after sustaining injuries. Rotherham was not alone in this descent into chaos. In Middlesbrough, over 300 protesters gathered at the city's cenotaph before marching through the city center, chanting slogans like "We want our country back." The march quickly devolved into violence, with protesters clashing with police and vandalizing property. Slate pieces, vapes, and full plastic bottles were hurled at the officers, while others kicked bollards into the road to obstruct police vehicles. The use of police dogs to contain the crowd only heightened tensions, leading to multiple arrests as the city teetered on the brink of anarchy. The scenes in Middlesbrough were echoed in Bolton, Greater Manchester, where violent clashes between protesters and police erupted. Video footage shows activists pushing against a human barricade formed by officers, forcing Greater Manchester Police to invoke emergency powers under Section 60 and Section 60AA. These measures allow officers to stop and search individuals and require the removal of face coverings, underscoring the severity of the situation. The unrest has also taken on a deeply disturbing racial dimension, with disturbing footage from Sheffield showing masked individuals attacking a man waving an England flag. The violence in Sheffield spilled into residential areas, with rioters smashing windows of homes and cars, spreading fear and panic among local residents. The attack on a migrant hotel in Rotherham, coupled with anti-immigrant rhetoric and violent actions, has drawn widespread condemnation. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, in a speech today, condemned the violence, labeling it organized violent thuggery with no place in British society. He expressed his outrage at the attacks on migrants and the destruction of property, emphasizing that such actions have no justification. Sir Keir's condemnation was echoed by former Home Secretary James Cleverly, who called for the full weight of the law to be applied to those involved in the riots. The ongoing unrest was initially triggered by the horrifying stabbing of 3 young girls in Southport on July 29 by an alleged knife man, Axel Mugamwa. This tragic event has been manipulated by far-right groups to stoke xenophobia and incite violence against migrants, culminating in the riots we see today. In Middlesbrough, protesters carried banners with slogans targeting Rudakubana, falsely linking him to broader immigration issues in the country. The riots are not merely an expression of public anger, they are the result of a deliberate campaign to sow division and hatred. As cities like Hull, Liverpool, and Belfast continue to reel from the destruction, the violence shows no signs of abating. The social fabric of these communities is being torn apart as the violence escalates. In Merseyside, a community library that doubled as a food bank was set ablaze by rioters, symbolizing the senseless destruction that has gripped the nation. The Spellow Lane Library Hub, which had only recently opened after months of fundraising, was reduced to a charred shell, with bookshelves toppled and shattered glass strewn across the floor. The library was more than just a building, it was a lifeline for the community, providing essential services to those in need. The loss of such a vital resource highlights the human cost of this violence, where the most vulnerable members of society are the ones who suffer the most. As the UK grapples with this unprecedented wave of violence, the question on everyone's mind is, where do we go from here? The riots have exposed deep-seated issues within the country, from the rise of far-right extremism to the failure to adequately address the concerns of marginalized communities. As Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer faces criticism for his response to the crisis, the nation watches closely to see how the government will restore order and heal the wounds inflicted by this chaos. The events of this week serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of hatred and division. Stay with the Fame Journey for continued coverage of this unfolding crisis as we bring you the latest updates and in-depth analysis. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay informed on the stories that matter. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe.